Hello and welcome to UK Versus. Today we're going to be taking another dive into the Attack on Titan Battle for Humanity characters and looking at a unique game archetype that came in with Attack on Titan, wall counters. Wall counters appear on a few cards throughout Attack on Titan and are on three very good characters in my opinion. You've got Haynes, Erwin and Krista. The one that we're going to mainly be focusing on today is Krista. Not to say that Erwin and Haynes aren't great, but Krista is the one I want to focus on here because Krista has the best utility to manipulate wall counters in my opinion. Krista Lenz is a member of the Survey Corps, very close friends with, and probably more, with Ymir. I'm not too sure, I've not got that far in the manga. And in terms of the game, she falls within the wall counter archetype. And she is very powerful at doing this. She is, in my opinion, the best. With Erwin, after you sacrifice Foundation, you get a wall counter, so you're going down on resources. With Haynes, you get wall counters for after attacks are blocked, and you get damage. With Krista, you get to manipulate aspects of the game. Whenever you discard a card, you get 2 counters. Simple as. That includes the review step. So she has every turn get 2 counters on face as long as she has a card in her hand. And we'll talk about ways to manipulate your hand to make sure you've always got a card in your hand at your review step. Then for the cost of 1 counter, so for half of the amount of counters she gets for this card, your attack gains stun 1. So you can take your opponent down resources. That's insane. And then for the low cost of 2 discards or 4 counters, she can manipulate the top of both players' decks by adding a card from each player's discard to the top of their decks. That is absolutely insane. I absolutely love it. And Krista, being on Chaos and Order, has access to some very good utility with those abilities, being able to draw the cards that she stacks or being able to stack checks to pass bigger attacks. And that stun ability is perfect for cards like Walk the Dog, which in itself has got Order and Chaos. So before we take a look at the attuned cards that have access to the wall counters directly or further along Krista's goal, let's take a look back into what is currently standard legal that she can utilize with this discard ability. With cards like Final Test, which lets you draw if you discard, Lust for Battle, which allows you to manipulate your opponent's check on discard, Public Support, which gets you more damage and speed on discard, with Wind Up Punch, that gains more stun power on discard. Order is a very powerful symbol for discarding and drawing. Gaining your counters, you have Both Hands Coaching, which forces both players to discard and draw a card. That's 2 counters. You have Genkai's Guidance, which has a form which makes you discard a card, getting another 2 counters. You have Slice and Burn, which is discard 2, draw 2, burn 2. So not only are you gaining 2 counters, you're taking your opponent closer to death. And you have Idle Work, which basically says, block my attack. I will then discard, gain 2 counters, draw a card. Order is very powerful in the way that it can just utilize that draw ability, keep refilling the hand. And Final Test is a great example of how you can synergize with Krista's abilities. The Chaos symbol, which is personally my favorite symbol, is a bit stronger personally. You have cards like Beautiful Suzuki, which is a commit cost, discard 2 cards, draw 2 cards. It's not only allowing you to loot 2 cards, it's allowing you to get more counters and make sure you've got those attacks you need to get through. The Steel Muscle Explosion, when you discard it, you get to, as part of a cost, draw a card. Leaping Slice, discard a card, you get to replace it if this attack deals damage. So either way is a benefit for Krista. Frogs gains stats if you discard cards. Fearless Frog lets you discard a card once per turn to change the zone of its attack. So not only do you get wall counters, you get to make this attack a lot more blockable. Team Player allows you to discard cards to give your water, which isn't too much of a big deal in Attack on Titan, but allies are. You can get some more stats. Then you have cards like Double Trouble, Claw Stopper, Titan Cliff, all of which allow you to discard and then draw more cards. You have cards like Levitate, which again let you discard and draw, all pushing those counters into the higher numbers. You can hit double digits quite quickly. Then you have UA High, and on Chaos you can even get Shocking Entrance to discard a card and go pick up UA High. UA High at the end of each player's turn lets them draw a card and discard a card. So with Krista, you are talking about a 2 discard turn no matter what. You get to review one, get 2 counters. You get to draw a discard at the end, get 2 counters. That is nuts. You're talking 4 counters a turn. That is so powerful, not including the other stuff you can do throughout your turn to generate more counters. And then when we look at the attuned side of the cards, we can see there's even more power. When we look at the attuned side of the cards, you've got cards like Faith in the Walls, which gets you a wall counter on play. So if you're building it or blocking with it, you're progressing your goal. Raise the Walls, which just lets you get counters and also gives you extra defensive synergy. Fortify the Walls, which lets you just tick up counters at the end of each turn. And if you need to use them defensively, you can. Or you can just transfer them all to Krista, and you can just pop off in the ways we'll talk about a little bit further down the line. Fortify the Walls is a very cool little synergy with Krista to just chuck those wall counters around a little bit and be able to build multiple walls, which is a great homage to Attack on Titan. We have Krista's wall going around the outside, then we have Fortify the Walls deeper in, so if we do get our walls breached, we have other counters to rely on. So once you've got your foundations down, whether you're on Order, whether you're on Chaos, and you're generating multiple wall counters a turn, you've got that production going, you're building your bricks. What are we going to do with these walls? What can we do to utilize the best use of these walls? Giving all of our attacks stun is great, but it isn't the best use of our walls, and causing our opponents to constantly check freeze is also fun, but our opponents may also have draw power and we are just kind of messing about with them. Although in my game against a Krista, they did use this to kind of answer risky encounter and basically keep saying, if you don't block me, you're going to draw it and you don't get to utilize its form anyway. Utilizing the stun ability on Krista is great on Chaos and Order for Walk the Dog, allowing you to mess about with your opponent's board, reduce the cost of Walk the Dog, and then burning for counters to put what you want on top of your deck, whether that be another Walk the Dog, and then draw it. That is huge, that is great. Walk the Dog and Krista go hand in hand beautifully. Your opponent goes down on resources. They've got this big 6/6 attack that has already stunned them for 2, and you're guaranteed to draw another attack whilst making your opponent's check a lot harder. The true synergy of Krista does come, however, from her use of wall counters with Attack on Titan attuned attacks. If you have at least 4 counters, which Krista can get to on their second turn, provided they went second, you can play Commander's Rage. Commander's Rage has a blitz effect, which allows you to basically increase its powerful rating by 2 if you have 4 wall counters, and then you may spend a wall counter as though it was a momentum for powerful. That is insane. That is basically going, you get +4 to this attack, and it has cost you nothing. You've just had to have enough wall counters to pay the cost. That is so cool, but that is only the tip of the cool iceberg. Then we're getting into Wall Artillery. Wall Artillery has a blitz effect that adds a wall counter to a card in your stage and then gets 1 damage for every 2 wall counters on cards in your stage. So if you've been sat there with a Fortifying the Walls and it's been ticking up counters, if you've been ticking up the counters on Krista, you get to add them together and then pop off on damage. That is so cool. You can turn this 5-speed, 4 damage attack easily into double digits and make basically go, you need to block this or you're going to die. And for an uncommon, that is so powerful. Yes, it's only powerful in these specific characters and specifically Krista for how this is going to work. But the fact you can loop this with Walk the Dog, with stuff, basically says, I have a cannon and this cannon is going to pop off every turn. That's nuts. That to me is absolutely insane. Then you have things like One Maria's Might, which then again lets you add a wall counter to a card and then draw a card for every 2 wall counters on that card. If you play this as your second attack, you can move all of your counters from Fortifying the Walls to Krista, and you can essentially draw your hand size in a turn. And again, because of Krista's ability, you can loop these walls. You can keep drawing. You can always have a build out. You can always have the defense. It is a great counter to these characters like Reiner that want to blow up your board because you just get to rebuild out. You'll always have a hand for defense. It is really insane that you just get to loop Wall Artillery and Wall Maria's Might through Krista because you are constantly generating the 4 counters a turn through the review step and UA high at the end. That is so nuts. I talked before about utilizing Krista with other cards. You have cards like Titan Cliff, which lets you build in 6s, and possibly a great use of her counters is number 23 Pro Hero, which gives all of your attack speed. It allows you to draw before your review step, which means you always have the review. It is such an insane synergy that Krista just gets to pop off. This is why when we were going through our review, this is why we were going through our tier list, I pushed for Krista to be higher, because if the review step counted, which we now know it does, she just constantly keeps generating these counters and she becomes harder and harder and harder to deal with every single one. It's beautiful. And I think Krista could replace Connie as my dark horse of the set. I've seen people on Discord talking about her on Order, and I think Chaos is being slept on. Apart from in the UK in Sheffield, where EU national champion Liam Chawner has been playing this. He smashed me in a webcam event with it. He won his local qualifier with it. It's a very, very powerful deck, and I think it's a deck that unless you've played against it, you are not ready for it. What do you think about this? Am I wrong? Is Connie still going to be the dark horse of the set? Or is Krista always been this powerful and I just didn't give up on the hype even though I was trying to push for it to be further? What archetypes of Attack on Titan would you like to see us cover? And how have you been finding our recent content? And I would really love to get some feedback as to how people are finding it. I'll catch you all next one. And as we're always out, I will pass you over to Flynn with our subscription message.
If you don't like and subscribe, this creeper will explode. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You did it. Good.